My name's Ethan, and for 10 years I was married to a woman named Lily. I really thought we had a solid thing going. Sure, we had our fair share of ups and downs like most couples do, but nothing that ever made me question our marriage. That was until one particular Wednesday night that flipped my world upside down. I had just gotten home from work, tired like usual, and there she was sitting at the kitchen table, waiting. Now, I do not know about you, but when your spouse says we need to talk, it is rarely followed by anything good. I could tell something was off just by looking at her face. There was this strange tension in the air, like a pressure in my gut that something bad was about to happen. She told me to sit down, and I did, not saying a word. Then she started talking, her voice kind of shaky. "I need to tell you something, but you have to promise me you will not get mad," she said. I just looked at her and nodded, waiting. She took a long, deep breath and said, "Ethan, I love you. I would never try to hurt you, but I need to be honest. I think it is important for our relationship." Right then and there, I felt my stomach drop. I knew something big was coming and I was not ready for it. Then she hit me with it. "I have met someone else, but I do not want to leave you," she said. "It is just. I feel like I need something more. Something different. Someone else from time to time. I want to take a lover." I just sat there stunned. I could not believe what I was hearing. I asked her, real slow and calm, "Let me get this straight. You love me. You want to stay married. But you also want to sleep with some other guy on the side." She nodded like that was the most reasonable request in the world. She said it would just be separate from me, that it would not mean anything, and it would not change how she felt about us. "I still love you, Ethan, but I need this," she added. "If you love me, you will understand." Let me tell you, I had no idea how she thought that was even remotely okay. I asked her, "Have you already planned this out?" I was still trying to wrap my head around it all. "Yeah," she said, real casual. "We were thinking of going away next weekend." That was it. That was the breaking point for me. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "All right, Lily. What if I told you I wanted to go sleep with another woman? Would you be all right with that?" She paused for a second, definitely caught off guard. Then she said, "I think I would be okay with it as long as it did not change anything between us." I let out this bitter little laugh and snapped, "You know damn well you would not be okay with that, Lily. If the tables were turned, you would be losing your mind. And you actually thought I would just sit back and be okay with this?" Her face dropped. She looked shaken and muttered, "I did not expect you to get this angry. I thought you loved me enough to let me do this." I looked at her and said, "Whatever you are smoking, it better be legal. Because you are out of your damn mind if you think I am gonna sit at home while you spend the weekend with some other guy." She looked like she had no idea how to respond. I did not think you would say no," she whispered. "Yeah, well, you clearly did not think this through at all," I said. Then I stood up and added, "Give me a few days. We will talk again on Sunday." I walked straight to our bedroom and started packing up a few things. I moved myself into the guest room. She followed me, asking, "What are you doing?" I turned to her and said, "I do not want to sleep in the same bed with someone who is fantasizing about another man while lying next to me." And then I shut the door behind me. That night, I barely got a wink of sleep. I just laid there in the dark, my mind racing. One thing was crystal clear: if she actually went through with this, then our marriage was done. I was not going to live with that kind of betrayal. But I also knew I could not just sit back and let her sneak around while I stayed in the dark. I had to know everything. The next morning, I left for work like usual, did not say a word to her. But instead of going to the office, I called my job and told them I needed a couple of personal days. Thankfully, they understood. That is when I put my plan into motion. First, I went out and bought 3 small voice-activated recorders. One went near the house phone, another in our bedroom, and the third in her car. I also picked up a phone tap recorder and hooked it up to our landline. Since the phone account was under my name, it was not hard to get access to Lily's call history. And what I found, well, it was pretty eye-opening. When I got home, I got into her email. There was one account I had never even heard of before, but I figured out the password easily enough. Sure enough, it was all their emails between her and the guy, whose name was Brandon. They were making plans to spend that weekend together. The only small comfort I had was seeing that, at least from what I could tell, they had not actually slept together yet. I set it up so her emails would automatically forward to me so I could see whatever came in as it happened. Then I bought a couple of GPS trackers, one I slipped into her wallet, the other I planted in her car. By the time that day wrapped up, I had everything set up to keep tabs on Lily's every move. Now all I could do was wait and watch. When Friday rolled around, I decided it was time to take things up a notch. I called up a divorce lawyer, someone a buddy of mine had spoken highly of. We sat down and I laid out everything I had, the emails, the phone logs, and the gear I'd installed to get more proof. The lawyer listened carefully and nodded along. He told me that, with solid evidence, we could definitely file for divorce under the grounds of adultery. Then he mentioned something I hadn't even thought about. We could also sue this guy Brandon for what's called alienation of affection. That really lit a fire in me. All I needed now was solid proof that they had gone through with the affair, and I was going to make sure I got it. Later that evening, Lily came home like it was any other night. I didn't say a word to her. She started making dinner while I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. I ended up at a local bar, not for drinks really, but just to get away and clear my head. I couldn't pretend everything was fine. I needed time to get my mind straight for whatever was coming next. When I got back later that night, she tried to talk, probably wanting to smooth things over or explain herself. I was not in the mood. I walked past her without saying a thing, went straight to the guest room and locked the door behind me. At that point, I knew the only way our marriage could be saved was if she canceled her plans with Brandon. But deep down, I already knew she was too far gone for that. Saturday came and I gave her the cold shoulder all day. I didn't talk to her, didn't even look her way. I didn't have anything left to say, and honestly, I didn't want to hear whatever excuse she'd try to come up with. By the time Sunday morning hit, it was time for the talk we agreed on. We sat down at the kitchen table, just like we used to back when things felt normal. I got right to it. Have you thought about what I said? I asked her. She looked me straight in the eye and said, I have. And I still want to go through with it. My heart sank, but I kept myself calm. Lily, this is going to ruin us. You seriously think this won't change anything between us? She crossed her arms and said, I think you're overreacting. If you saw this from my side, maybe you get it. I have looked at it from your side, I said. And no matter how I spin it, there's no version of this where it ends well. So no, I can't agree to this. She let out a frustrated sigh, clearly not expecting me to stand my ground. How can you be so selfish, she snapped. If you really loved me, you'd let me do this. That just about knocked the wind out of me. I'm selfish. I asked, almost laughing at the craziness of it all. You want to sleep with another man, but I'm the selfish one for saying no? Come on, Lily. That's ridiculous. There was a long pause. She looked at me, her expression cold, and asked, what happens if I do it anyway? I stared right back at her. Then there will be consequences. Real ones. We took vows, Lily. We promised to be faithful. If you break the promise, we're done. No second chances. She didn't say anything right away. Just sat there quietly before finally muttering, well, I guess this conversation is over, then. I stood up, walked out of the house, and didn't look back. My decision was made. There was no going back now. If she went through with this, I was going through with the divorce. By the time Thursday rolled around, everything was ready for the weekend. The last straw came when I checked her email again. Sure enough, she and Brandon had locked in their plans. He had booked them a room at some fancy hotel in Chicago. They were going to meet there Friday afternoon and spend the whole weekend together. Reading those emails, you'd think they were planning some romantic getaway, not cheating on someone they made vows to. What really hit me hard was how relaxed Lily sounded. Like my feelings weren't even part of the equation. I decided right then and there to beat them to it. I booked the exact same hotel room, but for Thursday night, the day before they were supposed to meet. My goal was simple, set up hidden cameras so I could capture everything they did. It wasn't just about protecting myself in court anymore, it was about making sure both of them had to answer for what they were doing. Especially Brandon. I wanted enough evidence to sue him for alienation of affection. That afternoon, I took time off work, packed my gear, and made the drive to Chicago. I checked into the room they were planning to use and spent a couple of hours carefully setting everything up. The cameras were small, fiber optic, and easy to hide. Perfect for getting the footage I needed. I tested each one to make sure it was working right. Once I was sure everything was set, I headed back home. On the way, I stopped by a store and picked up a small can of pepper spray. I had an idea for a little parting gift, just in case things went sideways. That night, Lily acted like it was just any other evening. You'd never guess she was about to throw away our marriage the very next day. Honestly, it was almost impressive how calm she was. Meanwhile, I could barely stand to be in the same room with her. When Friday morning came, I got up early. What she did not know was that I had already signed the divorce papers at my lawyer's office the day before. All I needed now was the footage, and I would have it by the end of the weekend. The plan was to serve her the divorce papers at work on Monday. Brandon would get his copy too. No surprises, just the consequences of their own choices. I checked her GPS tracker. She was at a salon, probably getting her hair done, trying to look perfect for her big weekend with Brandon. While she was out, I went through her suitcase. When I opened her suitcase, There it was, new lingerie, clearly bought for Brandon. Stuff she never once wore for me in all our years together. Stung, but honestly I was half expecting it. That was when I pulled out the pepper spray. I gave a couple of good sprays, right in the crotch of her panties and in the cups of that brand new bra. Yeah, it was petty. I know that. But after everything she was putting me through, I figured I earned at least one small win. That little act gave me a weird sense of satisfaction. I closed her suitcase and made sure it looked exactly the way I found it. Then I headed straight to the bank. I shut down all our joint accounts and moved every cent into a brand new account under my name only. After that, I canceled every credit card that had both our names on it. I figured if she was going to run off with someone else, she could do it on her own dime. I made it back home a little after noon. Around 12:30, I knew Lily would be upstairs getting ready for her big weekend. I went up to our room and, sure enough, there she was, standing in front of the mirror wearing that lingerie. The stuff she bought just for him. She looked up when I walked in, and for a second, it got real quiet. "You really went all out for this guy, huh?" I said, the sarcasm dripping from my voice. She looked away, not saying anything. "Too bad you never made that kind of effort for me," I added. "Ethan, it's not what you think," she said softly, her voice shaky like she already knew she lost whatever ground she thought she had. "I just wanted to feel good," she added. "That's all." "No," I shot back. "You wanted to impress him. You care more about what he thinks than what I've thought over the past 10 years. She stayed silent, but I didn't care for any excuses anyway. I walked up to her, took her left hand in mine, and started sliding off her wedding ring. "This meant something to me," I said quietly. "But clearly not to you. I'm not letting you wear this while you're out there touching someone else." She didn't resist, just watched as I took off the ring and slipped it into my pocket. "The engagement ring? That one was my mother's," I added. "I'll be keeping it." I let go of her hand and stepped back. "Look, Lily," I said, "I won't be here when he comes to pick you up. But let me make one thing clear. Do not bring him into this house. Ever. If you do, there will be hell to pay. Do you understand me?" She looked stunned but nodded. "I won't. I promise." "Good," I said as I turned around and walked out of the room. She called out my name, but I didn't turn around. I didn't need to hear anything else. I was done. I parked my car a little ways down the street, where I could watch the house without being seen. Some part of me still hoped she'd change her mind at the last minute. But I already knew that wasn't going to happen. Whoever she used to be, she wasn't that person anymore. A couple hours later, I saw Brandon's car pull up. He walked up to the door, rang the bell, and there she was, Lily, coming out with her suitcase in hand. And right there on the front porch, she gave him a long, deep kiss like it was some romance movie. Then she looked straight down the street, right in my direction. She smiled. That smug, knowing smile. That was the final straw. I flipped her off as they pulled away. Just like that, her smile vanished. I drove straight to Chicago and checked into a hotel not far from the one they were staying at. I opened up my laptop, connected it to the camera feed, and waited. Sure enough, not long after, I watched them walk into the hotel room I had rigged with hidden cameras. They got right to it, wasting no time stripping down and climbing into bed. And that is when I noticed something that actually made me laugh out loud. Let's just say, Brandon was not exactly working with a full toolbox, if you know what I mean. The guy had nothing to brag about. Lily had tossed away a decade of marriage for that? The whole scene felt more pitiful than passionate. It was petty, sure, but seeing it unfold gave me a weird sense of justice. She had given up everything we built for this. Brandon barely lasted a few minutes, and judging by the expression on Lily's face, she was far from impressed. That was the moment it all clicked for me. This wasn't just betrayal, it was embarrassing. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was making a fool out of herself. I couldn't watch any more of that train wreck, so I left the cameras running and went out for a drink. When I got back to the hotel later that night, they were already asleep. Lily looked frustrated. Brandon? He looked pretty proud of himself. Didn't matter to me anymore. I had what I needed. The footage was locked in, and that meant I was ready to move forward with the divorce. Everything else was just icing on the cake. The next morning, I woke up feeling more rested than I had in days. I grabbed a bite to eat, picked up some snacks, and checked the camera feeds to make sure everything was still working like it should. I wasn't just collecting evidence, I was enjoying watching their little fantasy weekend fall apart in real time. Knowing it was not turning out how Lily had imagined it made the whole thing feel fair. It felt like justice. Around mid-morning I had an idea. Every year, I used to send Lily the same bouquet of flowers for our anniversary. Same arrangement every time. But this year, I decided to put a twist on it. I called up a local florist and ordered that exact bouquet. Had it delivered right to their hotel room with a card. I didn't bother signing it. The flowers alone would say everything I needed them to. The timing was perfect. They had gone out for a while, and as luck would have it, came back just as the flowers arrived. I watched through the camera feed as Lily's expression went from surprised to uncomfortable. She opened the card, and even though I couldn't see the message, I could tell she knew it was from me. And sure enough, not long after, my phone started ringing. It was Lily. Hello? I answered the phone, playing dumb like I had no idea why she was calling. Did you send me these flowers? Lily asked, her voice tight, like she was trying to stay calm but couldn't hide the tension. I chuckled, cold and dry. Why would I send you flowers, Lily? You're with Brandon now. Did he forget to get you some? They're the same kind you use to send me every year for our anniversary, she said. I know they're from you. First off, I said, you and your little boyfriend didn't even tell me where you were going, so how would I have known where to send flowers? And second, if I had sent you anything, it sure as hell wouldn't be flowers. It would have been poison ivy. I paused for a beat, then added, enjoy your weekend with Brandon, Lily. Don't call me again. Before she could say another word, I hung up. I saw her try to call back more than once, but I ignored every ring. Through the camera feed, I watched her toss the bouquet straight into the trash. She was clearly rattled, and that was only the beginning of the fun. Since I already knew what room they were in and their weekend was clearly not going according to plan, I figured I might as well stir the pot a little more. Later that day, I saw them back in bed, Brandon trying to take another stab at romance. That's when I had an idea. I called up the hotel's go-to-pizza place and placed an order under Lily's name, her favorite toppings and everything. 10 minutes into their little bedroom action, there was a knock at the door. The delivery guy stood there, pizza in hand, asking for payment. Brandon, already annoyed by the interruption, had no choice but to deal with it. He tried to refuse the delivery, but the guy wasn't having it. Said the room number and phone number matched up, and if they didn't pay, he'd have to call the police. After a bit of back and forth, Brandon caved and paid for it, clearly irritated. They ended up eating the pizza, probably figured they might as well, but you could cut the tension in that room with a knife. This wasn't the weekend either of them had imagined. Later on, when things started to settle down again, I struck one more time. I called a sandwich shop and ordered Lily's favorite sub. Same one I used to get her all the time. Had it delivered to their room, no warning. By the time it showed up, Brandon was once again trying to have his way with her. The knock at the door sent him over the edge. He stormed off the bed, cursing under his breath. Lily, meanwhile, was starting to put the pieces together. He knows where we are, she said, holding the sandwich like it was radioactive. He's messing with us. Brandon tried to play it off, but Lily explained it. How I must have gotten into her email. How I knew their whole weekend plan before they even hit the road. I sat in my room, watching her face as the realization hit. She finally understood. I was a step ahead the whole time, and there was no way I was going to let their little weekend getaway go smoothly. After that, they decided to head out for a while, probably hoping to escape the wave of food deliveries. I stayed put, grinning to myself as I imagined them walking around, paranoid and annoyed. But it wasn't over yet. Later that evening, they came back to the hotel, showered, and got ready for what I guessed was their big romantic night out. I watched through the camera as Lily pulled out the lingerie I had sprayed earlier with pepper spray. She slipped it on, gave Brandon a little spin like she was doing a fashion show, and he looked about ready to pounce. But she told him to wait until after dinner. She wanted to save it for later, so I sat back, waiting patiently for the pepper spray to do its job. And oh, it did. Less than an hour after they came back from their dinner, Lily bolted into the bathroom, ripping her clothes off like they were on fire. When she finally came out, her skin was red and blotchy, especially across her chest and between her legs. She looked miserable, could barely stand to be touched. Every time Brandon tried to lay a hand on her, she winced and snapped at him to back off. Brandon looked confused, asked if maybe she was allergic to something in the fabric. Lily had no clue what was happening, But it did not matter. That night was officially ruined. No romantic fireworks. No passion. Just pain and frustration. I sat back and laughed. Karma had done its thing. Sunday morning rolled in, and I knew the curtain was about to fall on this disaster. I packed my bags, feeling more clear-headed than I had in days, and made the drive back home. But before Lily returned, I made sure everything was ready. I had changed the locks and packed up most of her stuff, tossed it all into garbage bags and set them by the front door. She wasn't going to be staying here anymore. That part of our life was over. Mid-afternoon, she walked through the front door. I was sitting on the couch watching football, pretending not to even notice. "I'm back," she said, like she had just come home from a weekend with the girls. I barely glanced at her. "Yeah, I see that," I replied, keeping my voice as flat and cold as I could. She walked between me and the television, trying to get my attention. Gave me a little smile like nothing had happened. "Aren't you happy to see me?" she asked. That's when I finally looked at her. "Happy?" I scoffed. "What exactly makes you think I'd be happy to see you? You think I got stupid while you were gone? I know exactly what you were doing." She looked caught off guard, like she wasn't expecting me to be so direct. "I didn't think it would bother you this much," she mumbled. "I thought maybe you'd, I don't know, get past it." I just stood there, shaking my head, struggling to believe the words coming out of her mouth. "Lily, I gave you everything I had," I said quietly. "I loved you with everything in me. But the second you walked out that door with another man, that was it for me. That was the moment it all died. You broke my heart, and now, I honestly don't care whether you came back or not." Her eyes started to fill with tears. She took a step closer and said, "I know I made a huge mistake, but we can work through this, can't we? I'll do anything to fix it." I stood up, looked her square in the eye, and said, "Anything." She nodded. "Then get on your knees," I said coldly, "and beg for my forgiveness. Maybe then I'll think about it." She froze, clearly shocked by the demand. I can't do that," she whispered. "Exactly," I said, backing away. "You say you'll do anything, but you won't even do that. So don't give me this 'I'll do anything' nonsense. You made your bed. Now you can lie in it." She tried again, voice cracking with desperation. "Please, Ethan. I love you. I thought about you the whole drive home. I want to be with you." I let out a bitter laugh. "Now you want to be with me? After the weekend you just had?" I paused, then looked at her dead on. "Tell me something, Lily. Did Brandon use protection every time?" Her eyes widened. She was stunned. "No," she admitted. "But I can't get pregnant, and he's married. He's clean, Ethan. It wasn't like that." I shook my head in disgust. "You don't know that. You really think you're the only woman he's pulled that line with? As far as I'm concerned, you're damaged goods now. I'm not touching you until you get a full medical checkup. And even then, I doubt I could ever be with you again." Her face fell apart. "I know he's clean. But if it makes you feel better, we can use a condom." That was it. I snapped. "You seriously expect me to use protection with my own wife because you couldn't keep your legs closed? That's not happening, Lily." She made one last attempt, voice soft and trembling. "I really want to make love to you tonight. I need you, Ethan." "Make love?" I repeated, shaking my head. "You didn't make love with Brandon, you screwed him. And now you want to come back to me like none of it happened? There's no way I'm getting into bed with you after that. In fact, I don't even want to see you tonight." I turned to head upstairs. "You can sleep in the guest room. I'll be in the master bedroom, seeing as I'm not the one who wrecked this marriage." She looked heartbroken, but she didn't argue. She knew the battle was lost. "Can we at least talk about it?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "We can talk tomorrow," I said, grabbing my coat. "After you get back from work. But honestly, I don't know what's left to say." With that, I walked out and headed to a nearby bar, not to drink, but to get some space. I just needed to clear my head. Deep down, I already knew this marriage was over. No amount of begging or crying was going to fix what she broke. When I got home later that night, I found her lying in our bed like she belonged there. "Get out," I said sharply. "You don't belong in here anymore." She sat up. "This is her bed," she said, but her voice had no strength behind it. "I have just as much right to it as you." "You had that right," I replied. You gave it up the moment you walked out with him. Now get out or I'll drag you out myself. She started crying, but she got up and walked out of the room. I closed the door and locked it behind her, ignoring the sound of her sobbing down the hall. It didn't matter anymore. There was nothing she could say or do to fix this. The next morning, I barely acknowledged her as she got ready for work. She looked at me with watery eyes and said softly, "I love you, Ethan." I stared at her and said, "I used to love you." That hit her hard. The tears started again, but I didn't stop her as she left the house. As soon as the door closed behind her, I got to work. I started packing up the rest of her stuff, clothes, shoes, whatever junk she had left, and threw it all into garbage bags. Every item I touched felt like one more piece of the life I was ready to leave behind. Once it was all done and lined up by the front door, I made a phone call I'd been holding off on. I called Brandon's wife, Ava. When she picked up, she sounded surprised. "Hello? Hey, Ava. This is Ethan, Lily's husband," I said calmly. There was a pause. "Oh, hi, Ethan. What's going on? Do you know where Brandon was this past weekend?" I asked. She hesitated. "He told me he was on a business trip." "Why?" I took a breath. "He wasn't on a business trip. He spent the weekend with my wife. I've got proof, emails, texts, everything. If you want the truth, I'm willing to show you." There was a long silence on the other end, and then I heard her voice crack. "You have proof?" "Yes," I said. "I can send it to you, or, if you'd rather, we can meet up and I'll show you everything in person." To my surprise, she agreed. We made plans to meet later that afternoon. When I pulled into her driveway, I wasn't sure what to expect. But I wasn't ready for what I saw. Ava opened the door and I was taken aback. She was absolutely stunning. Tall, blonde, elegant. One of those women who could walk into a room and stop it cold. I couldn't help but wonder how Brandon could be so stupid. She looked surprised to see me too, but there wasn't any awkwardness. We both knew this wasn't about appearances. There was too much to talk about. I laid it all out for her, everything. The emails between Brandon and Lily, the phone logs, even the video footage I had gathered over the weekend. Ava looked furious, but she kept her composure better than I expected. We sat and talked for a while. By the end of the conversation, Ava decided she was done with Brandon and wanted to file for divorce, too. I gave her my lawyer's contact info and we made a joint appointment that afternoon. The lawyer agreed to take on both our cases and even offered us a bit of a discount for handling everything together. Guess betrayal makes for efficient business. As we were leaving the office, Ava looked at me and said, "I still can't believe this is happening." "I know," I replied. "But we'll get through it. We both deserve better than the lies we've been fed." We said our goodbyes and I headed home, ready for whatever came next. It didn't take long for the phone to ring. It was Lily. She sounded panicked, her voice high and sharp. "What the hell is going on, Ethan?" she screamed. "I just got served with divorce papers at work. And Brandon got served too. He's being sued for something? What the hell is this?" I didn't bother pretending to care. "It's exactly what I said would happen, Lily," I told her flatly. "You made your choices. Now you deal with the consequences." "I didn't think you'd actually do it," she whimpered. Her voice was small. Defeated. "Well, you thought wrong," I replied. "If you want to talk more, we can do that when you get back to the house. But I'm done with this conversation for now." And I hung up. After that, I walked outside, grabbed the garbage bags full of her stuff, and tossed them out onto the front lawn. I was done being nice. She wanted out? Well, now she was all the way out. Later that day, Lily came speeding into the driveway. She slammed the car door and stormed across the lawn, her face red with fury the moment she saw her things scattered across the grass. "How could you do this to me?" she screamed. "You're ruining everything." I stood there calm as a stone, just watching her unravel. "I didn't ruin anything, Lily," I said. "You did that all on your own when you chose him over me. You're the one who destroyed our marriage." She broke down into sobs, yelling through her tears. "I thought you loved me." I looked at her and said quietly, "I did love you. More than anything. But you didn't love me back. If you had, you never would have done what you did. You threw us away." Her sobs kept coming, but I was done. I pointed to her things. "Take your stuff and go. You don't belong here anymore." She didn't argue. She knew it was over. She loaded the bags into her car, crying the whole time. Right before she left, I handed her one last thing, the wedding ring I'd taken from her days earlier. Only now it was flattened and bent out of shape. I'd taken a hammer to it. "Here," I said, dropping it into her palm. "It's worthless now. Just like our marriage. Maybe you can pawn it." Then I leaned in, kissed her lightly on the forehead, the last time I'd ever touch her, and whispered, "Goodbye, Lily." And I turned and walked back into the house without ever looking back. I sat in that empty home for over an hour after she left. No noise. Just me and everything I was feeling. Tears streamed down my face as all the anger and pain finally poured out. I cried harder than I had in years until there was nothing left. Then I stood up, wiped my face, and made a choice. I had 3 options: drown myself in a bottle, do something reckless I'd regret forever, or move on with my life, knowing I had done nothing wrong. The answer was clear. I wasn't going to let Lily or Brandon destroy me. I had done everything right. I kept my vows. I was loyal. I gave her everything I had. And now I was free. That evening I picked up my phone and made a call. I dialed Ava. We had already connected on a deep level, sharing the same kind of chaos. I figured a dinner between 2 people who understood wouldn't hurt. To my surprise, she said yes. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt hope. Maybe we'd just be friends. Maybe more. Who knows? But I knew one thing for sure: my life was finally moving forward. As I sat there thinking about everything that had happened, the lies, the heartbreak, the betrayal, a small smile crept across my face. Lily may have broken my heart, but she didn't break me. I was free.